You are listening to Real Estate Today. To reach Deb Tomaro or with questions and comments about the show, please send an email to Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. That's Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Welcome back. Thanks for coming back. We are talking today about navigating this crazy seller's market that we're in. And certainly, in Monroe County, we're not as crazy as in some other markets. I was just looking at an article that talks about San Francisco always is the market where everybody says is crazy. And Rachel had posted something on our Facebook page last week about a home that was very similar to the home that I lived in when I was born in the San Francisco area. I was born in San Mateo. This was in Sunnyvale, which is a little bit further inland. And it sold for $2 million. And it was not all that.
It was like I did see that. It was like a ranch. It reminded me of like
tile countertops, oak cabinets.
Was it built like in the 70s?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was another one here too that was saying the highest, this article I was reading about overbidding, the highest overbid on a single family home so far this year, this is in the Bay Area, was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, asking $1.1 million, and it closed at $1.61 million. $500,000 over list price. So I know I need to shut my mouth because we're going like, $5,000 and $10,000 over list price sometimes. And it's like, okay, we're not that crazy, but the rules still apply in terms of things that you should do to navigate in a seller's market. So this segment, I really want to focus in on buyers. And so as a buyer, being in a seller's market means a few things. It means sometimes you don't have a lot of choice. Sometimes it means you have a lot of competition. Usually means you don't have much negotiating room and you don't have a ton of leverage in general. I'm always amazed at the buyers who still want to come in and underbid. And I had one a couple weeks ago. We had 3 offers the first day, and 2 of the offers were over list price, good, solid, clean offers. We're going to talk about what that means because I say that to you, Karen, all the time. It's got to be a clean offer. And you're like, I don't really know what that means.
Well, I know what that means.
Now you did, right?
Yeah.
But maybe not everyone else does. But anyways, then there was this third offer, and it was like below list price, and they wanted all this furniture. I was like, what are you doing? Like, they wanted all this extra stuff added on, and I just thought, where do you think you're getting that leverage, to ask for all that stuff?
Well, that or if the property's being sold as is,
yeah.
I just had someone ask me, well, what if the appraisal comes back and it needs some repairs or whatever? And I thought, your seller's not going to renegotiate would be my guess, but I will let you know what the appraisal says, but as is as it is.
Right. So I know that we're making the market sound really appealing, and I find that I'm sort of checking myself sometimes, going, shut up, because I don't want to scare buyers off, make it sound like all doom and gloom. They send me a list of 10 homes. I'm like, yeah, those are all pending. I always try to come up with something else to offer them. I'm like, okay, but here's this, because I do want to say there's hope. Certainly, we're selling homes. You just have to really be prepared. And there are some other reasons why I think you should still consider buying too. One is interest rates. They're still really low, but I don't know how much of it you can talk about, Karen, as a lender, because I know you've got guidelines that you can and can't say, but it seems like they're creeping up.
Yes, that's a fair statement. Like a good example on Monday, had a buyer. I emailed him what the rates were. I said, hey, here's what we've got. And then by the time he responded back, the market had shifted. So I said, same day. I said, so hold tight just a second. Let me go back and make sure. I had to go back in and just double check. The rate stayed the same, but the pricing had worsened.
Okay.
So
there are some people that are saying, I probably should take advantage of the interest rates now instead of waiting a year. I would say for sure they're going to be higher in a year. But they're going to be higher next week too, probably is the way it looks. So that certainly is one reason that you might still want to buy. In a lot of cases, especially in Bloomington, we're a very expensive rental market. So a lot of my clients, especially the first timers, they recognize it's still cheaper than renting to buy in our market for sure. And you're still building equity, which is great for now and it's great for the future. And, buying a home is still the American dream. that's not going to change. And you can paint and you can plant and you can do all those fun things when you own as opposed to renting. So I think there's still plenty of good reasons out there to buy. But you've got to get your act together. All right. So I found this article on Trulia. I didn't send this one to you either, Rachel. If you want 6 major mistakes buyers make in a seller's market. And I thought it was actually pretty good. And so I wanted to touch on that a little bit and then talk about creating a clean offer and talk about a couple of strategies there. So one of the things that they said was not making your best offer. So again, put your best foot forward. You never know when another offer, I always have this conversation with people. If you make an offer and you're like, yeah, we'll just negotiate for a while. I'm going to start really low and they'll counter back and we'll go back and forth a few times. That's kind of how we used to do it. The problem is that now, and we see it happen literally every day, is that you'll make an offer, the seller will counter back, and you're going back and forth, and that's letting more days pass, and that's letting more people see the home, and then someone else is going to come in and make an offer, and all of a sudden the seller's got 2 offers. He's going to go to a multiple offer situation, ask for everybody's highest and best, pit you together to the death for the house, and they're going to drive the price up. Whereas if you had gone in with your, the really good offer straight up, they probably would have just accepted it and you'd be done. So, that's just part of the strategy that really needs to happen if you're serious about it. Now, if you're just fishing, call another realtor. Overanalyzing the purchase price. And we're going to talk, I think, in the last segment of the show about value. And my favorite explanation, this is where I need visual to be on video. Yeah, the visual for, but, value is kind of a perception on each side. And so we're going to talk about what that means. This article, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but this article by Laura Agadoni of Trulia says that working with an inexperienced agent may hurt your chances of getting the house you want. I just got off the phone with an agent. He's getting ready to, hopefully, knock on wood, offer on one of my listings. And he said, Deb, he's been around for a long time. And so we're all kind of and I've known him forever. And so he said, we in our market, we had like 200 and something realtors in 2013. Now we have like over 400. I don't know if those numbers are right. I know we have over 400
That's an accurate. Oh,
I don't know about 2013. Okay. But he says, and I believe him, that we had like 200. And so, he's kind of like, what I'm finding is we have a lot of realtors who are just, don't do a ton of business, and they're still sort of, I don't want to say anything bad, but they're maybe not quite as experienced to be able to shift with this market. You got to shift with the market. The way that I am running, my listings and my buyers right now is different than I did last year and way different than I did 10 years ago. So I think it does help to have someone who's a little bit more experienced, probably. Not being pre-qualified for a loan. Bang my head against the wall. Have we said that once or twice?
Maybe a couple times.
Mm-hmm. No one's going to look at your offer if you're not pre-qualified. And if it's a cash offer, have some freaking proof of funds. I went through this a couple weeks ago where I had 3 offers on something. It was all cash, but like nobody could provide me proof of funds. When they sent me proof of funds, it was not in English. I'm like, I don't know what that says. I'm like having to go onto the computer and do exchange rates. And then, then the question is, the money's not here in this country. It's not accessible. I'm sure it's good, but
right.
I would rather see money here in this country that, we could actually use to close. So getting your finances in order is huge. And then I think another big mistake is people not being prepared for a bidding war. It's going to happen. So you either need to prepare for it or, my preference is just go in strong. I've had some clients, if we just put in a really good offer and kind of be like, you can't refuse this. And it works.
No, I definitely think what I'm seeing now is I've ran so many like, hey, can you update my pre-approval letter to this? This is what I'm going to go in and do. Yeah. And then they get in a bidding war and they're like, okay, can you give me this? And I've done this so many times. And then, especially with this one couple, I feel bad, but they've lost out on 3 homes. And that's not in our market either. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that is definitely happening
all around. Yeah. But it sounds like you're being run ragged with.
Can you send? I just I just sent a blank one. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what is involved in creating a clean offer, because that's what I always say. So no clutter. Avoid closing cost assistance if you really don't need it. Or at least take it into account, raise your price. That's closing cost assistance isn't free. I don't know if people think that, but it's not. Avoid asking for things that aren't offered. So if the washer and dryer aren't offered, furniture. I had one, they brought a great offer. They wanted every bit of furniture in my client's house. And I was like, what the? And they said, well, it would be convenient for the buyer to be able to just move in. I said, well, it would be very inconvenient for my seller who will have no place to sit or sleep next week. Yeah. What the hell? Right.
I mean, like, unless they were joining the Peace Corps.
Right. You're right. Not so much. And then they said, well, okay, they can take the furniture, but they still want like 2 of the TVs. Well, guess what? Your highest offer now is not the highest, because we're going to start subtracting out value for replacing televisions. Mm-hmm. And now the second highest offer is actually going to be a higher offer. But for some reason, they just feel like that's like a freebie. It's not a freebie. Be flexible with closing and possession if you can. Take time to read the disclosures and look at the house closely. This is a big one. Look at the age of the furnace. Look at the age of the water heater. You can look and see if it's rusted and falling apart. But I know in some markets they do inspections first before they even make an offer, which is amazing. But think about how you can reassure the seller that you're not going to go crazy during inspections. We have a lot of deals falling apart because they're like, oh, that furnace is 19 years old. It works, but it's old, and so the buyer doesn't want it. Not a reason to kill a deal, but it has been killing some. Sometimes they say write letters, personal letters. Those are nice. Money's probably going to talk a little bit louder. Pre-qualification, of course. Can you do conventional financing? We're starting to look at that more, as opposed to an FHA or USDA financing, because that just means a potentially smoother deal for the seller. This is a big one, having all the blanks filled in on the purchase agreement. Sometimes I get purchase agreements and I'm like, there's holes, there's blanks. Stuff's not completely filled out. Like I don't know if the agent was like in a hurry or what. Now you've seen it too, right? And you have to send it back and be like, I can't take this.
I know. Well, I bite my tongue because I'm not the agent, but right. I look at it and that's how I have to update my loan with the terms.
Yeah. You want every blank on that form filled out. Trust me. Just put something in there. Having good earnest money is another thing that you can do as well. And then escalation clauses. We are seeing that more and more and more. I know, Karen, you asked me about that. And that's where you can write an offer and then you can add an amendment to it that says, look, we'll pay $500, $1,000, $2,500 more than the next highest offer up to a certain cap. There's pros and cons to doing that. It's a great tool that a lot of realtors in my area don't use, so it can certainly make your offer stand out. But it also can tip your hand that here's how much I'm really willing to pay for the house. So, but I do use it, and I think it's a great option as well. And another option would be putting in a backup offer. I'm starting to do that. In the past, we usually avoided homes that had accepted offers. But if the offer is fairly new and it still hasn't gone through inspections, I'm telling my clients, let's go look at it. Maybe we put in a backup offer, and if we put in a really good backup offer, maybe it's better than the offer they have. And, the seller still has to follow the contract that they have in place. But if they can kill the deal legally, they will, to take your backup offer. So that's certainly an option too. It's not shady, but it certainly is strategery. And then also, just like I said before, working with a realtor who's full-time and obsessed. I have a real quick way of checking new listings on my phone, and I literally am doing it about every 20 minutes now. So, you need someone helping you stay on top of it, because you still need to go work your job so that you can pay for the house. So, all right. So that's some advice on how to navigate if you're a buyer in a seller's market. It's totally doable. You just need to have your act together, and you need to have some good guidance and some good team members around you. When we come back, we're going to talk about being a seller in a seller's market, and that it's maybe not quite as fun as you think it might be. So stick around. You're listening to Real Estate Today, your home for smart real estate.